Pause, silence, then a steady voice. Before the sun returns, before your next breath forgets this one, you must hear this. The Aquarian age is no longer approaching. It is here, now, today. The bell has already rung, not outside, but inside you. This must reach you before tomorrow, because tomorrow is not what it used to be. The maps are fading. The signs have changed, and silence is speaking louder than ever. You may feel the tension. Not from outside pressures, but from within, a pressure that says, wake up, stand up, step forward. The Aquarian age doesn't wait. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't bend for the unwilling. It opens the gate, and it is your decision to walk through. This is not mysticism, this is mechanics. The old gears of control, fear, and division, they are rusting. The age of mindless obedience, finished. What is rising is conscious choice, sovereign thought, and a collective spirit that no longer bows to illusion. Listen carefully now. This shift is not about outer technology, but inner technology. Not faster machines, but deeper mind. Not artificial intelligence, but authentic awareness. And it starts with you. You becoming the architect of your thoughts, the guardian of your breath, the author of your presence. Before tomorrow comes, choose clarity over chaos. Choose alignment over ambition. Choose awareness over automatic behavior, because tomorrow will only echo what you decide now. Let this reach you fully, not just in the ears, but in the spine. Let it move you, not with fear, but with responsibility. You came to this time not by accident. This is your station. The train has arrived. And your soul, it already knows what to do. Bow your head, raise your spirit, step forward. The age has begun. For centuries, people have spoken of this moment as if it were a faraway star, visible but unreachable. The Aquarian age was treated like an idea, a forecast, a hope preserved for the next generation. It was whispered through ancient texts, mystical traditions, and cosmic alignments. But something profound has shifted. The threshold is no longer theoretical. What was once anticipated has now arrived, and the time for speculation has passed. This age is not marked by fireworks or fanfare. It does not begin with dramatic announcements or visible banners in the sky. Instead, it begins with a quiet rearrangement, a subtle but undeniable change in the vibration of the collective consciousness. You may not see it with your eyes, but you feel it deep in your chest, in your sleep, in your relationships, in your silent moments when everything suddenly feels different, and yet you can't quite name why. Many expect a new age to look like a better version of the old world, more efficient systems, more humane leaders, more advanced technologies. But the Aquarian shift doesn't decorate the old structure. It dissolves it. It asks not how to improve the illusion, but how to see through it. It pulls back the curtain and exposes what has been stagnant, corrupted, or built on unconsciousness. And in this exposure, it invites an entirely new orientation, not outward, but inward. The energies of the previous age were grounded in hierarchy, control, and tradition. The Piscean legacy was one of surrendering power to institutions, waiting for guidance from above, and finding meaning through sacrifice. But the Aquarian frequency speaks a different language: decentralization, truth through personal experience, knowledge through direct perception, and power reclaimed from within. It is the age of awakening, not of a few, but of the many. But awakening is not automatic. The beginning of a new age does not guarantee your participation in it. The frequency has shifted, yes, but tuning into it remains a personal task. Just as a radio must adjust its dial to receive a different signal, so too must you reorient your awareness to meet the new frequency. This reorientation is not a one-time act. It is a continual, living practice. And without this inner effort, the outer changes may pass you by like wind across water, stirring the surface, but never touching your depths. The arrival of this age comes with a demand, not of obedience, but of presence. The Aquarian field is charged with intelligence, innovation, and integration, but it does not hand these gifts out freely. It requires your participation, your willingness to observe the old within yourself, your capacity to dismantle inherited patterns, your ability to sit in stillness and let truth emerge without distortion. This is not a time for passive belief, but for active inner investigation. Many will resist this call, not because they are unworthy, but because the comfort of familiarity is powerful. It is easier to argue for what was, than to surrender to what is becoming. Yet resistance will not stop the shift. It will only increase the tension between your inner world and the outer momentum of evolution. The Aquarian current is not asking for your permission. It is already in motion. Your choice is not whether it will arrive, but whether you will align with it or be dragged by it. This age invites you to become your own reference point, to recognize that the guru, the guide, the truth have always lived within. It is an invitation to stop outsourcing your perception and begin to trust the quiet authority of your own insight. To engage consciously means to meet this moment fully, to stop waiting for the world to change, and instead become the precise frequency of change you wish to see. The age has begun, and so must you. The great misunderstanding of transformation is that it comes from outside, that if the world becomes more peaceful, then we will become calm, that if society becomes more fair, we will feel safe, that if technology advances, we will finally feel free. But this is illusion. It is the shadow chasing its own shape. The real shift, the true revolution, is not happening in institutions, cities, or machines. It is happening in the stillness of your own awareness. In the past, change was often measured by external indicators: a new government, a new movement, a new discovery. But this time, the signs are subtle. They appear when a person chooses silence over reaction, when someone breathes deeply before speaking, when a thought, once ruled by habit, is now examined with awareness. This is how the new age speaks, not in loud proclamations, but in quiet pivots of the soul. The revolution is invisible, but it is everywhere. This age demands inner mastery, not perfection, but presence. Mastery does not mean control over others. It means deep understanding of yourself. It means knowing your inner, whether your triggers, your stories, your attachments, and choosing to meet them not with suppression, but with clarity. When you begin to witness yourself without judgment, without defense, you are no longer just a participant in life. You become its conscious observer. And in observation, power is born. You cannot participate in the Aquarian age with old tools. You cannot bring unconscious reactions into a world that now requires conscious choices. The path forward is not paved with certainty, but with awareness. Every emotion, every pattern, every belief that you carry, these are no longer just personal. They are instruments through which the collective energy plays. When you refine your awareness, you do not just change your experience, you tune the collective field itself. Inner mastery means taking full ownership of your state, not blaming the outside world for your turbulence. It means recognizing that the battlefield is not in the streets, but in your breath, that the greatest act of rebellion is not against governments or systems, but against your own unconsciousness. Each time you choose to be still in the face of agitation, each time you respond with intention instead of instinct, you bend the fabric of reality ever so slightly toward harmony. This age is not about gathering more information. It is about transforming information into insight. You may read every book, follow every teacher, and still remain asleep if awareness does not accompany your learning. Knowledge without embodiment is decoration, but knowledge carried in the body, felt in the breath, witnessed in the silence, this is wisdom. This is the seed of inner authority, and that authority can no longer be outsourced in the Aquarian world. In this age, conscious decision-making becomes the new compass, not choosing based on habit or fear, but choosing from alignment. Before every action, a question must arise. Is this choice made from truth or from survival? The Aquarian current moves too fast for indecision and too deep for superficiality. It is not the decision itself that matters, it is the consciousness behind it. How you choose, from what place you choose, this determines your path forward. Awareness is the bridge. It is the threshold between the old self and the awakened self, between reacting to life and co-creating with it. And in this new time, that bridge must be walked with full presence. The journey is not far. It is only the distance between the surface of your thoughts and the center of your being. But to walk it, you must stop reaching outward and start listening inward. There is a crumbling taking place, not outside your door, but inside the very frameworks that shaped your perception. Systems you were taught to trust, ideologies you were taught to defend, hierarchies you were conditioned to obey, these are no longer sustainable in the field of this emerging frequency. What once held structure now reveals its weight. What once gave security now feels suffocating. This is not destruction. It is disintegration of the false. Fear has long been used as glue. It kept people in place, obedient, passive. It disguised itself as protection. It wore the mask of order. But beneath it was always control, subtle or brutal. It made no difference. And control, when stretched too long, begins to fracture under its own pressure. We are now witnessing the breaking point. Fear can no longer hold what has outgrown it. You may notice the collapse not through loud events, but through small inner revolts. A job that no longer aligns, a rule that no longer feels fair, a loyalty that suddenly feels hollow. These signals do not mean you are broken. They mean you are awakening. You are no longer willing to trade your aliveness for compliance. No longer able to tolerate what was once normal. That shift is not a malfunction. It is the beginning of inner freedom. Division, too, is losing its grip. For so long, identity was shaped by opposition, this versus that, us versus them, right versus wrong. But now the edges are softening. People are beginning to sense what lies beneath the surface labels. A quiet knowing is rising. The enemy is not each other. The true disconnection was never between two people. It was between the self and its own essence. Healing begins where separation ends. The Aquarian frequency is not compatible with dominance. The old structures that depended on centralized power, hidden knowledge, and closed systems are becoming too dense to sustain themselves. Like towers built on shifting sand, they may still stand for a moment, but their foundations are no longer anchored in truth. And truth, when it rises, has a way of illuminating all that pretends to be stable. Control once promised safety. It offered predictability, but in return it asked for silence. It asked you not to question, not to feel too much, not to see too clearly. That exchange, numbness for security, was the price of the old paradigm. But now that cost has become too high. More people are willing to risk uncertainty for authenticity. More are willing to walk into the unknown than remain asleep in the familiar. What we are seeing is not chaos, it is the exposure of artificial order. Systems that do not serve life will fall. Not because they are attacked, but because they are no longer supported from within. When enough individuals withdraw their energy from falsehood, the structure collapses from lack of belief. This is the silent revolution, not of protest, but of presence, not of noise, but of no longer feeding the illusion. To witness this collapse is not to fear it, but to understand it. The end of the old is not the end of all. It is the clearing of space, the falling away of what no longer resonates. And in that space, something ancient and new is preparing to emerge, something that cannot be built on fear, or sustained by force, or divided by illusion. But that emergence begins first where fear once lived within you. In a world that once measured value by accumulation of wealth, titles, possessions, followers, the energy has shifted. What was once admired for its size is now examined for its integrity. And what once passed unnoticed, stillness, simplicity, sincerity, is now beginning to shine with a different kind of light. The new age is not impressed by how much you carry, but by how deeply you are aligned. It asks, is your life arranged around truth or distraction? Clarity is not about knowing everything, it is about seeing what is here without distortion. It is a form of inner honesty. Not dramatic, not loud, just clean, simple, direct. To be clear is to remove the fog from your own perception. It is to look at your own motives, your own reactions, your own behaviors, and see them not through judgment, but through still awareness. When you are clear inside, you stop creating confusion outside. In the old paradigm, deception was often rewarded. Manipulation could win influence, masks could earn applause, but in this emerging field, falsehood vibrates too slowly. It is exposed by the speed of truth. The Aquarian current does not punish illusion, it simply passes through it, as if it were not there. That which is not authentic cannot maintain presence, it cannot hold frequency. It slips, stumbles, and dissolves in the light of direct seeing. Alignment means that your thoughts, words, and actions flow from the same root. It means that what you believe inwardly is mirrored outwardly in how you move through the world. This is not about perfection, it is about resonance. When your outer life reflects your inner truth, there is no resistance. You begin to walk through the world without friction. You begin to attract not through effort, but through coherence. Many seek power through strategy, but true power now flows from presence. Not presence as performance, but presence as depth. When you are fully in your body, fully in your breath, fully in your moment, people feel it. They may not understand it with their minds, but their nervous systems recognize the signal. This person is real. This person is rooted. This person is not pretending. That is the new magnetism. That is the new influence. Authenticity has become the new wealth, not because it is trendy, but because it is efficient. It saves energy. When you are no longer maintaining a persona, you reclaim enormous internal resources. You stop leaking life force. You begin to access clarity, creativity, and connection, not from trying harder, but from being fully here. The most powerful transmission is not what you say, but what you are. The age of performance is ending. The age of presence is beginning. And in this age, refinement replaces noise. Stillness replaces strategy. Integrity replaces image. To be seen for who you truly are without defense, without decoration, becomes the highest form of freedom. But that freedom requires responsibility. You must first meet yourself honestly, without filters, without escape. This currency cannot be traded. It cannot be borrowed. It is not given by titles, roles, or social approval. Clarity, alignment, and authentic presence can only be earned through self-observation, through humility, through the willingness to let go of what no longer serves. And as the outer world continues to speed up, this inner grounding becomes not just valuable, but essential. Responsibility is often misunderstood. In the old world, it was confused with burden, a weight placed upon your shoulders by external authority. It was about duty to rules, systems, expectations. But in this new field, responsibility takes on a different shape. It is no longer about meeting someone else's standard. It is about becoming accountable to your own awareness. It is not something you are forced to carry. It is something you choose to honor. The first level of responsibility is thought. Your mind is no longer just a private landscape. It is a transmitter. Every thought you entertain adds to the atmosphere of the collective. A fearful thought does not stay locked inside you. It echoes outward, adding tension to the field. A clear thought, a kind thought, a truthful thought, these ripple outward too. You are not isolated. You are not separate. Each thought is an offering. Each thought is a vibration. To take responsibility for your thinking does not mean controlling the mind through force. It means cultivating awareness of what arises without becoming entangled. It means learning to watch your thoughts like clouds, noticing which ones pass and which ones stay to reign. You begin to discern which thoughts belong to your true self, and which are inherited, borrowed, or built from fear. With that awareness, you can choose which ones you give your energy to. The second layer is breath. Breath is often ignored, yet it is the bridge between body and spirit. It is the first rhythm of your life and the last. And in between, it is the one tool you always carry, though so often forgotten. When you take responsibility for your breath, you take responsibility for your presence. You begin to regulate your inner state not through suppression, but through self-care. A deep, conscious breath can break cycles of panic. It can interrupt reactivity. It can return you to now. To breathe with awareness is to reclaim your center in the middle of noise. In moments of conflict, fear, or distraction, the breath becomes your anchor. It grounds you not in opinion, but in being. You realize that no external situation has the power to control your inner weather unless you abandon the breath. And so responsibility becomes a daily devotion, not dramatic, not loud, but quietly revolutionary. Then comes action. In the new paradigm, action is no longer a reflex. It is not driven by urgency or guilt or fear of missing out. It is an extension of clarity, a conscious movement of energy that reflects your inner alignment. To act without awareness is to create ripples of confusion. To act with presence is to create harmony. It is not about doing more. It is about doing what is truly needed, no more, no less. Responsibility for action also means ownership. When your words land, they matter. When your decisions affect others, they carry weight. The awakened being does not blame the world for their behavior. They do not outsource their reactions. They observe, reflect, and adjust, not to be perfect, but to be honest. The more honest your actions, the less repair is needed later. Responsibility saves time. It prevents unnecessary harm. To live with this level of responsibility is not to live in pressure. It is to live in reverence. You begin to see your life as a sacred instrument. Every thought is a string, every breath a vibration, every action a note. And you are the one tuning it. The Aquarian age does not demand that you be flawless. It asks only that you be awake, and that you answer your life with intention. Responsibility is often misunderstood. In the old world, it was confused with burden, a weight placed upon your shoulders by external authority. It was about duty to rules, systems, expectations. But in this new field, responsibility takes on a different shape. It is no longer about meeting someone else's standard. It is about becoming accountable to your own awareness. It is not something you are forced to carry. It is something you choose to honor. The first level of responsibility is thought. Your mind is no longer just a private landscape. It is a transmitter. Every thought you entertain adds to the atmosphere of the collective. A fearful thought does not stay locked inside you. It echoes outward, adding tension to the field. A clear thought, a kind thought, a truthful thought, these ripple outward too. You are not isolated, you are not separate. Each thought is an offering, each thought is a vibration. To take responsibility for your thinking does not mean controlling the mind through force. It means cultivating awareness of what arises without becoming entangled. It means learning to watch your thoughts like clouds, noticing which ones pass and which ones stay to reign. You begin to discern which thoughts belong to your true self and which are inherited, borrowed, or built from fear. With that awareness, you can choose which ones you give your energy to. The second layer is breath. Breath is often ignored, yet it is the bridge between body and spirit. It is the first rhythm of your life and the last. And in between, it is the one tool you always carry, though so often forgotten. When you take responsibility for your breath, you take responsibility for your presence. You begin to regulate your inner state, not through suppression, but through self-care. A deep, conscious breath can break cycles of panic. It can interrupt reactivity. It can return you to now. To breathe with awareness is to reclaim your center in the middle of noise. In moments of conflict, fear, or distraction, the breath becomes your anchor. It grounds you not in opinion, but in being. You realize that no external situation has the power to control your inner weather unless you abandon the breath. And so responsibility becomes a daily devotion, not dramatic, not loud, but quietly revolutionary. Then comes action. In the new paradigm, action is no longer a reflex. It is not driven by urgency or guilt or fear of missing out. It is an extension of clarity, a conscious movement of energy that reflects your inner alignment. To act without awareness is to create ripples of confusion. To act with presence is to create harmony. It is not about doing more. It is about doing what is truly needed, no more, no less. Responsibility for action also means ownership. When your words land, they matter. When your decisions affect others, they carry weight. The awakened being does not blame the world for their behavior. They do not outsource their reactions. They observe, reflect, and adjust, not to be perfect, but to be honest. The more honest your actions, the less repair is needed later. Responsibility saves time. It prevents unnecessary harm. To live with this level of responsibility is not to live in pressure. It is to live in reverence. You begin to see your life as a sacred instrument. Every thought is a string, every breath a vibration, every action a note. And you are the one tuning it. The Aquarian age does not demand that you be flawless. It asks only that you be awake, and that you answer your life with intention. Technology was once seen as a tool, inert, neutral, passive, something to be used, something outside the self. But as the age of Aquarius deepens, it becomes clear technology is not separate from consciousness. It reflects it, it magnifies it, it mirrors the user. And in this mirroring, it reveals something essential, that every click, every share, every upload is not just a function, it is an extension of inner state. A device in your hand is not just a screen, it is an amplifier. If your mind is scattered, it will magnify the noise. If your heart is calm, it can channel clarity. Technology now acts as a multiplier of intention. What you bring into it, it echoes back tenfold. It will not lead you, it will follow you. But if you are unconscious, it will drag you. If you are awake, it will serve you. The tool has no loyalty, it aligns with whatever is most present within you. The myth of neutrality is falling apart. Algorithms are not neutral. Platforms are not passive. They are shaped by attention, and attention is currency. Whatever receives your attention grows, not just on your screen, but in your own neural pathways. You are not simply using a device. You are training your consciousness through every interaction with it. What you watch, what you scroll, what you repeat, these are not harmless habits. They are seeds, and so the question arises, who is designing your awareness? Where is your gaze being pulled? What parts of you are being fed, and what parts are being numbed? In this new age, these are not casual reflections, they are essential inquiries. Because technology now holds the power to either awaken or sedate, to elevate or distract, and that power is not in the tool itself, but in the quality of your presence as you use it. When unconsciousness meets technology, the result is disembodiment. A person can live hours disconnected from their breath, their body, their essence, while endlessly connected to everyone and no one at once. But when awareness meets technology, something else becomes possible. Communication becomes transmission. Creativity becomes coherence. Instead of consuming fragments, one begins to send signals of wholeness. Technology is no longer optional. It is part of the nervous system of the collective. It connects not just people, but patterns. And with it comes a new discipline, the discipline of discernment. Just as one learns to choose what enters the body as food, one must now choose what enters the mind as input. What enters the heart as influence. The digital realm is not separate from your energetic field. It is part of it. The sacred task now is not to reject technology, but to refine the relationship, not to fear it, but to wield it wisely. It is a mirror, a magnifier, and in many ways a test. What happens when you are given infinite information, infinite access, infinite distraction? Do you collapse into noise, or do you return to the center and speak from stillness? The tool reflects not your intention, but your embodiment of it. To be awake in this age means to live with technological intimacy, not as addiction, but as awareness. You begin to ask each time you reach for a screen, is this an act of escape or expression? You notice when you are pulled unconsciously, and you return. Again and again, this is not about abstinence, it is about alignment, because in this Aquarian wave, every tool you touch becomes a part of your field, and every field you engage with shapes you. The nature of human connection is undergoing quiet alchemy. In the past, relationships were often built as shelters, places to hide from the world, from ourselves, from the loneliness we didn't yet understand. People sought comfort before truth, safety before awakening, but the Aquarian current does not support unconscious contracts. It pulls away anything built on avoidance, and so relationships are changing, not ending, but deepening. Becoming less about possession, more about presence. To love now is to see, not just the surface smile, but the shadow behind the eyes. It is to stand before another not as savior or fixer, but as witness, as mirror. You begin to notice that every interaction is feedback. Every conflict, every joy, every tension is pointing back to some part of you. The other is not a destination. They are a reflection, they are the curriculum, and the soul, if it is ready, pays attention. Gone are the days when connection could be sustained by fantasy. Projection cannot hold under this light. You may try to sculpt someone into your ideal or shrink yourself to fit their comfort, but those shapes collapse under the weight of truth. The Aquarian frequency insists that both people show up as they are, not perfect, but present, not finished, but honest. And from that honesty, something real can grow. This shift can feel uncomfortable. Many discover that what they called love was actually fear of being alone, that what they called loyalty was actually mutual avoidance. But this is not failure, it is awakening. It is the unmasking of pattern, and in that unmasking, the choice becomes clear. Do we grow through this, or do we go? Not in blame, not in drama, but with reverence for the mirror that has done its work. Relationships are now accelerators of consciousness. When entered with awareness, they become fields of transformation. They show you where you are open and where you are armored. They reveal the ways you abandon yourself to avoid tension. They ask that you speak with clarity instead of compliance, that you feel your needs without shame, that you listen not to respond, but to receive. Love is no longer defined by fusion, the merging of two into one, but by resonance. Two whole beings standing side by side, each rooted in their own truth, each honoring the other's path. Interdependence replaces dependency, communication replaces guessing, growth replaces stagnation. The relationship becomes not a place to land, but a place to expand. Not a cage, but a compass. The nervous system can feel this shift. There is less craving for drama, more hunger for clarity. Less need for validation, more space for authenticity. The Aquarian energy makes it harder to stay asleep in each other's presence. And so the invitation is clear. Can you hold your own center while holding space for another? Can you remain honest even when it risks connection? Can you love without losing your edge? Relationships now are sacred laboratories. They are not where you find yourself. They are where you test what you found. Where the theories of solitude are brought into the fire of togetherness. Where the soul, if willing, is shaped not by ease, but by the friction of truth. And in that friction, something rare begins to emerge, a love not based on escape, but on evolution. What you call the world is not a fixed object. It is not a static stage upon which life happens. It is more like a lens, sensitive, responsive, alive. And that lens is shaped from within. The idea that you are a separate observer watching a world outside of you is breaking down. In the Aquarian age, the veil between seer and seen is dissolving. Perception is not passive. It is participatory. You are not just witnessing reality, you are co-shaping it. Your frequency, the quality of your inner state, determines not just how you interpret experience, but what kind of experience comes toward you. If your inner atmosphere is heavy, tight, and chaotic, the world will seem threatening, rushed, unkind. But if you are still, spacious, grounded, the same world softens, the trees speak, the timing aligns. The noise begins to feel like music again, not because the world has changed, because you have. This is not a metaphor. It is a law of resonance. Like tuning forks vibrating in harmony or dissonance, your consciousness interacts with the field around you, drawing in matching currents. What you expect, you subtly invite. What you resist, you unconsciously energize. What you hold as sacred begins to reveal itself. Your reality is not reacting to your wishes, it is mirroring your frequency. In earlier times, reality seemed solid, slow, and separate, like an object to push or control. Now it is faster, more fluid, more subtle. This shift does not reward force. It rewards refinement. Attention becomes your currency. Intention becomes your compass. You begin to notice that your mood alters outcomes. Your beliefs sculpt perception. Your presence or lack of it shapes the unfolding moment before it even arrives. This is not to say that all suffering is your fault. It is not a game of blame. It is a call to become conscious. To realize that even in the midst of limitation, you have agency in how you see, how you respond, how you hold the moment. And that holding, how you hold yourself, how you hold the world, begins to shape the texture of your experience. Not as escape, but as subtle liberation. When perception becomes conscious, life becomes art. You begin to choose the frame. You adjust your lens not to distort reality, but to reveal more of it. A small act, pouring tea, walking down a street, speaking to a stranger, begins to feel luminous when met with presence. There is no longer a separation between spiritual and ordinary, because everything seen through the clear eye becomes part of the one field. And so the work shifts, less about fixing the world, more about tuning your frequency, not to retreat, but to participate more skillfully. Not to become passive, but to act from alignment. The mind may say, change must come from effort, but the heart knows, change arises from coherence. When your being resonates clearly, life begins to respond. Not always in the way you expect, but in the way that matches your signal. This is the subtle power of the new age, not dominance, not manipulation, but attunement. Your vibration is your message. Your attention is your vote. Your perception is the seed of your experience, And once you understand this, not as a concept, but as a living truth, you stop chasing reality. You start curating it. So now, as the current turns and the air thickens with signals unseen, you are not being asked to follow. You are being asked to remember, not what you were told, but what you already know quietly underneath the noise. That there is a deeper rhythm beneath the chaos. That truth does not scream, but hums. That alignment is not found in the crowd, but in the breath. That your choices ripple far beyond what you can measure. The Aquarian age does not come with spectacle. It arrives in subtler ways, in how you wake, in how you listen, in how you choose, even when no one is watching. It does not demand a title, a temple, or a platform, only your presence. This is not prophecy. This is a mirror. And if something in you has stirred, has sat up quietly as these words landed, then know, you are already on the path. You don't need to rush, you only need to respond, not tomorrow, now.